can you solve an addition equation? Let's look at an example. George had some plastic figures. After he bought 7 more figures, he had 25. How many plastic figures did George have before he bought more? Let n represent the number of plastic figures George had before he bought more. Solve the equation n plus 7 equals 25 to find the answer. Which part of the equation represents the total number of plastic figures George had before he bought some more?
Select your answer.
In the equation, n represents the number of plastic figures George had before he bought more. The 7 represents the 7 additional plastic figures George bought, and the 25 represents the total of 25 figures he had after he bought the 7 figures. To solve the equation, you need to find the value of n.
You can find the value of n by getting it alone on one side of the equation.
The pan balance represents the equation. Take 7 away from each side. That will leave the n alone. What is the solution? The solution is n equals 18. Operations that undo each other have an inverse relationship. Subtracting 7 is the inverse of adding 7. You can use this idea to solve the equation. Write the equation. Subtract 7 from both sides. Simplify. To check, substitute 18 for n. Write the equation. Substitute 18 for n. Simplify. It checks. George started with 18 figures. Remember, whatever computation you do on one side of an equation must be done on the other side in order to maintain equality.
Cabrini had some markers. After she bought 12 more markers, she had 16. How many markers did Cabrini have at the start?
Let n represent the number of markers Cabrini had at the start. Solve the addition equation. So n represents the number of markers she had before we started. And that is some markers, so that's the value of n we don't know yet. She bought 12 more, so we're adding 12 to what she started with. And then she had 16, so it equals 16. So then now we're going to try to get n by itself on one side of the equation. So the opposite or inverse of 12 is plus 12 is minus 12. So we're going to do minus 12 on both sides of the equation. So plus 12 and minus 12 equals 0. So we're left with n. And then 16 minus 12 is going to equal 4. So Cabrini had 4 markers at the start before she bought 12 more.
Write and solve an equation to answer this question. On the number line, how many units from negative 19 is negative 27?
Negative 27 is equal to x minus 19. X represents the number of units it's away from negative 27. So we want to get x by itself on the number line. So we're going to do the opposite of subtracting, which is adding. So adding 19 to both sides. Minus 19 and adding 19 is equal to 0. So we have x by itself now on that side of the equation. Then we have negative 27 plus 19, which is equal to negative 8. So negative 27 is 8 units to the left of negative 19 on the number line.
Write and solve an equation to answer this question. How far is negative 31 from 10?
Following the steps from the example, we have x as our unknown, units away, and then minus 10, and it has to be equal to 31. We want to know how many spaces away 10 is from negative 31. So we're going to do the opposite of minus 10, and we're going to add 10 to both sides of the equation. So this equal to 0, and then we're left with x. And then negative 31 plus 10 is going to give me negative 21. So 10 is 21 units away from negative 31.
Matthias had some basketball cards. After he bought 12 more, he had 21 cards. How many cards did Matthias have at the start?
Use algebra tiles to model the situation and write an equation, then solve the problem. We have the some basketball cards are represented by the X green tile. The 12 that she bought are represented by the one individual yellow tiles, and that is equal to a total of 21 basketball cards. To find the value of X, we have to do the inverse of adding 12, which would be subtracting 12 from both sides. So they took away 12 from here, and they also took away 12 from this side. So 21 minus 12 is equal to 9. And so the green tile is equal to 9 yellow tiles. So Matthias had 9 basketball cards at the start.
Vivian read 14 fewer pages than she was assigned to read. She read 60 pages. Draw a bar diagram or use algebra tiles to model the situation. Write and solve an equation to find how many pages, P, Vivian was assigned to read.
Alright, so we know that she read 14 fewer, so that could tell me I'm subtracting. Then she was assigned to read, we don't know how many, so that's going to be our unknown, and we know she read 60. So P is our unknown because it says find how many pages P. So P is the unknown, that's how many she was assigned, and we're going to be subtracting the 14 pages she read fewer, and the total that she read was 60. So now let's draw, because it asked us to draw a bar diagram or to use algebra tiles. So we're starting with 60 total pages that she read. So that's equal to 60 from here to here. And then she read 14 fewer than she was supposed to read. So actually, let me work backwards here. Let me erase this. Let me change that up, I'm sorry. Alright, so we're going to have one long bar. That's going to represent P. That's the unknown number of books she was assigned, or pages that she was assigned to read. Then we have she read 60 pages, and that was 14 fewer than she was supposed to read. So this is going to represent the 14 fewer that she was supposed to read. So if we were to take the 60 and the 40, because that's one total bar, we would have to add them together, the 14 and the 60, and that would give us the total of P, and then that total would be 74 pages that she was assigned. Mathematically, I'll show it over here. If we add 14 to both sides of the equation, that will equal 0, And then we have P by itself, and then 60 plus 14 is 74.